there. We're ready to get started. Welcome to the Mela Thought Leadership Series, everyone. My name is Rania Shalabi, the Executive Director of Mela and your moderator for today's exciting hour on reflection and restoration. Leading today's session is our host, Jim Crupi, and with him, a panel of our Mela Chapter Presidents. Now, Jim, of course, needs no introduction here. He's been our mentor, our teacher, founder and godfather of both SIBF and Mela, and a dear friend to all our global network members. And joining Jim on today's panel are a group of exceptional hearts and minds that I am very grateful to call friends, the Mela Chapter Presidents. From Egypt, Nahla Banhawy, Mela 3, from Lebanon, Soughit Koul, Mela 1, from Palestine, Rasha, Tarifi, Mela 7, from Oman, Hamad, Timami, Mela 9, and from the United Arab Emirates, Nabil, Sajwany, Mela 7. Welcome to you all. Now, it's worth noting that the chapter presidents are in their final month of their 2-year terms as presidents. So before Mela elects its new chapter presidents this coming month in June, I'll take this opportunity on behalf of the administration and the membership of Mela to thank all the presidents, those who are with us today and those who couldn't participate in the panel, for exceptional impact, dedication, and leadership. Really, really appreciate all of your time over the past 2 years and before. And before I hand over to Jim, I'll ask you to please keep your connections muted. Put all of your comments and questions in the chat window. There'll be time at the end of the session for Q&A with Jim and with the chapter presidents as well. And please remember to indicate in your question who you're addressing the question to. Also, our guests will be happy to take any questions you have after the session. It's a 60-minute webinar. If you have any questions afterwards, you can reach out to the chapter presidents and to Jim via the Global Network app. And that's all from me for now. Jim, thank you so much for being here.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me well. It's good to see everybody and know that you're all on the call. We decided to do this session on reflection and restoration because oftentimes in a crisis, people are so busy responding to the crisis that they don't know the difference between that and leading through a crisis. And in circumstances like this, the people that do well, the leaders that do well, are resilient and know how to adapt. And underneath that, those leaders tend to be very reflective. A way to think about this is most leaders who are resilient and adaptive, at the end of every day, almost like play back their day like they were watching a movie of themselves in the movie. And they reflect on, okay, what took place today? How was my behavior? What could I have done better in my interactions today? What actions could I have taken that might have been more productive, more beneficial? What we thought we'd do is we'd start with some questions of people on this session, which are all our chapter presidents, and ask them a question to reflect on their time as chapter presidents before we then get into a much more deeply personal leadership kinds of questions. So why don't we start with Nahla? Why don't you answer what have you learned about yourself as chapter president? What are kind of the big takeaways that happened to you over the course of being a chapter president? And then we'll just move through the group. Take 1 or 2 minutes to answer the questions. Try to be as pointed as you can.
Okay, so hello everyone. Well, basically, as a chapter president, when I first joined this role, I didn't think about it like I think of it as more of a serving role, like we would be serving other leaders and we are on equal. But as we go through, I discovered more that sometimes you need to have a decision, sometimes you need to step forward. And my style used to be like we are all working together and there is no time constraint. Maybe things would take time as it go, but after working closely with people, I discovered that sometimes it is my responsibility to really activate everyone and enable every person around me. And this also reflected me on both on work level and on family level as well. And currently the engagement after 2 years became so different in the chapter just by enabling yourself more and developing yourself more.
Okay. Hamad?
Right. I must say it was a privilege and an honor, and there was loads and loads of learning during the past 2 years. There was a lot of value that I've received, and I believe that there was a lot of value that I facilitated. Maybe you can look at it as value chain management, trying to add value, trying to map and match value, and bring in value and share it with the rest of the chapter. We've had a lot of accomplishments during the past 2 years, and I mean Mela Oman and the chapter and the team as a whole. We've hosted a masterclass, so we've had around over 100 people here in Oman in Mela 10. That was a great opportunity to bond, meet, learn and grow from the participants, the facilitators, the faculty, and everyone in the reunion, the members from the global network. It was fabulous, and all credit goes to the team for that. Engaging our partners and business leaders and fundraising activities was also had a lot of learning in it. We've enhanced our skill sets. I've enhanced my skill sets personally, maybe negotiation, fundraising activity related skills, and so on and so forth. The past 2 years gave me access and gave us access to business leaders or community leaders, which was great. I've learned a lot from the members in my chapter. I learned that it's not about me. It's all about them. I learned that I was the most or the least valuable member in a chapter of 60. Everyone around me is a proven leader, and there's a lot I can learn and leverage and capitalize on from them, from bonding with them, from interacting with them, from working with them, from engaging them, and following. A lot of the time, I would play a follower's role rather than a leader's role in many of the times in the task forces, and that was great. So there was learning in abundance, networking, connections, bonding in abundance the past 2 years.
Okay.
With members and people from the global network as well, and partners.
All right, thank you very much. Rasha?
Hello, everyone. Actually, the past 2 years, I had a lot of different experiences with my chapter members as the network as well as the global network. We've had a lot of connections, a lot of bonding, a lot of learning, a lot of valuable sessions together, all brainstorming, trying to enrich the chapter as well as the people who are and the members in the chapter. This was one of the best 2 years for serving the Mela community as well. We've done a lot of understanding for what is Mela and how we're going to give the impact of Mela back to our community. I had a lot of different conversations with the members of the chapter, which gave me the chance to get to know the chapter members more. And on the network level, I had the chance to work with Rania, as well as you, Jim, as well as the board of directors. This has added a lot to me. This is it, basically. There's a lot to say, but mainly this is the highlight of my experience within these 2 years.
Okay. Soughit?
Right. So good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to everyone on this call. It's so nice to see all of you. I have not seen many of you for some time now. It's a great opportunity, and I'm honored to be here with all of you. my journey with Mela has been a long one, and I'm privileged to be a part of this group. This is something I always say whenever I'm, in any context or any environment I'm part of. Mela has brought so many positive things to my life as a person, as a human being, and as a leader. And learning was taken to yet a different level the moment I assumed the role of presidency with the Lebanon chapter. I mean, I can emphasize on most of the points that my colleagues and other Mela members have shared, be it from the humbleness that this experience has brought us. But if I want to be brief and crisp and share the things that I've really discovered that worked for me and helped, activate a chapter that was less active to a very active chapter. Basically, it was the self-confidence that this is a role that, as a leader, where being humble is important, and that's part of my character, natural character. But then again, you have to be confident to show that, there is leadership at the end of the day. But equally important is being inclusive, in that any strategy that we set as a chapter, people were brought in, and buy-in was given and taken from the team to ensure that engagement, and that's part of the reason why we see Lebanon chapter moving from let's put it away, to a very highly engaged chapter. Obviously, learning from the others, learning from other chapters, engagement with the different chapter members, that has also added to a privilege. It was a privilege to all of us, the chapter presidents, because our president, the previous chapter president, it did not have a strong network as we had. It was something that worked for our best. Let's put it this way. So that, I think, covers it.
Okay. And Nabil?
Hey guys, how's everyone doing? I'm gonna try and avoid the fluff as best I can, but sometimes I can't help it. So we'll see how I can manage that. Okay, so the UAE chapter, it's really a lovely chapter to deal with. It's quite a number of people, very cosmopolitan. I'm not gonna run you through the details of the milestones and what we did and what we didn't do. I think maybe personally I can start off from that perspective, saying that there were a lot of challenges to start with, and I think the way I went about it was not necessarily the best way in terms of looking at it, in terms of what's the best level of success we could get. I probably should have flipped it from the start and thought of what are the pain points and what are, how can we learn through failing, even maybe in some ways. There's so many negative connotations revolving around the word failure that, I almost was afraid to kind of look at any types of failure for the chapter, because I hold Mela so dearly, and I wanted to see the chapter thrive. So because of that, I think my first year was definitely an extreme challenge in that sense. I held myself to an unrealistically high standard. Sorry, I think I went on mute. Because of that, I think I faltered a bit, and it's okay to say that, But in my second year, I definitely hit my stride, and there was a lot of positive points to take in the second year as well. Personally, it was a lot of growth. Perspective of things such as leadership changed over time as I managed it, because you are meant to look after certain aspects and at least attain certain goals. So because of that, I do feel like I have come out a bit, I don't know, wiser, but positive and happier that we did achieve something with the chapter. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
So you're saying that now that you're into your 2 years is coming to an end, you're actually ready to go forward with the next 2 years because of what you've learned.
I mean, I won't put it in writing. And I'll probably wait for a gun to be put to my head. No, I'm joking. It's not that bad. But I mean, look, I really genuinely do love Mela very much, and the wider network. It's people that, you seldom come across in your life. So because of that, I want to continue to contribute in some shape or form. So if it calls to it for me to kind of come back into the frame and help out as and how I can. Yeah, but you put it really well. It was like those first 2 years were almost like, you know, learning to fail and then succeeding from those failures.
Yeah. As you know, I'm not one that likes the term failure either, because I think it carries with it way too much freight. I actually do not believe in the concept of failure. I think it's a dangerous concept. I think people make mistakes, they don't fail. And you know, it's kind of like your children. If they do something wrong, you don't tell them they're failures, right? You look at them and you realize they've made a mistake, and it's all part of a path along learning to be better. And we all do that. We all make mistakes, and we probably learn more from our mistakes than we do from anything else. So let's start with you, Nabil, on this environment we find ourselves in, the COVID environment. I've been doing a lot of coaching with executives and teams on a regular basis since this thing started. And one of the questions I ask them is, what have you learned about yourself in the middle of this thing we're all going through across the world? And I get all kinds of answers. One person said to me, I've learned I'm more patient with my employees than I am with my own family. And that disturbed them, that they had gotten to that point. Another person said to me, I didn't realize that I was actually isolating my family more in an isolated environment because it was so easy to walk down the hall and get online and work. What's happening is productivity is skyrocketing in this environment, is what we're finding here. And because people are focused and they don't have somebody dropping in into the office environment and taking away their time, and so they're all focused. So when you think about you as a leader, you as an individual, what have you learned about yourself having to be in this restricted environment where you have to, you know, basically quarantine and not get out? What's been the biggest takeaway as you reflect on your life and what you've learned through having gone through this?
So I'm sure it's been a learning process for every single person on this planet. For me personally, I would have to say, and I can tie it to the masterclass as well, but I'll just talk about for now, just the situation at hand, is that I was almost appalled at how inexplicably human I can be at times. And I'm talking about that from the sense that we tend to maybe sometimes sweep our vulnerabilities and our insecurities under the rug, because life is kind of fast-paced and you don't really need to focus on them unless they really come into the light. But by you being not secluded, but by you being isolated and being in this somewhat confined space for such a long time, I think just somehow through no control of your own, they just come into the light, and you have no choice but to kind of face them head on and say like, okay, whatever challenges and difficulties I have that I face that do come up in my personality every now and then, I gotta face them head on. They're staring at me right in the face. And I have no shame in kind of coming up and telling you exactly what those things were. For me personally, dwelling on things too much, I mean, I would overthink the heck out of things like crazy, like it was no one's business. And that was multiplied by 1,000,000 during this time. Like a thing, literally just a sentence that would be said to me, not even necessarily in a bad way, but something the way that I didn't like the way I heard it. I would just dissect it and turn it into like a PhD dissertation. Which is terrible, and I hated that, and that's what I mean when I said I hate the fact that I was so inexplicably human, and I felt like I was so exposed in terms of what my vulnerabilities were. So I needed to sit down and be like, look, I simply need to do less. And what it came down to was do more and think less. And that was kind of the mantra kind of going forward of what I needed to do to kind of maintain this. I couldn't sit on things. I couldn't let things fester. And I don't want to take up much more time on this. And just pretty much the silver lining and all of this was that I always thought like you have to kind of stay strong in situations. You kind of have to make sure you don't let these things get to you. But sometimes you just can't help it. You know, we're all wired in our own special ways, and we're triggered by our own things. Sometimes we can't help those things. But I just want to try to make sure that I don't get sidetracked by things that aren't worth getting sidetracked. And it's weird because, you know, I don't know, maybe it's part of the male ego as well, in the sense that you kind of have to, you know, make sure you're the provider and you're there and you're strong for everyone and all. But sometimes it gets away from you, and you've got to learn how to manage that. So, like you said, it's not necessarily, it shouldn't be considered a failure. It should see how that molds you in a way and how you can take that and make that a part of you. So yeah, I'm sorry if that was a bit too much rambling, but that's pretty much what I went through.
That's all right. I know we all appreciate your candor and your willingness to be vulnerable. That's the whole purpose of this entire session, is to do that. And vulnerability shows authenticity, and it actually shows more strength than weakness. But people don't realize that until later, when they come to grips with what actually happened. So thank you. Soughit?
Yes, so that's not an easy question, because it touches on personal issues and personal inclinations. At the funny front, as we say, I discovered I'm a people's person. I always knew that, but I just was, you know, that was just, I was hit in the face with all that fact that, you know, put me with people, you know, I'm there, I'm happy, I'm in my element, but put me in one isolated room and work virtually with you know, and these calls and these endless calls and work, you know, endless hours working with a laptop. It's just not me. But then leadership is adaptation, as we all know, and that is one of the things that I have, learned and grown as a skill. You know, that's the situation. Then I have to live with it, and I have to basically work with the team that is working with me to grow that, and to instill the kind of motivation and security that all the situation really does not help building. So it was something I had to build in myself first. So I had to face that insecurity and challenge of, you know, the fact that this is completely out of my zone. Then I have to adapt to this, and I had no time to adapt to this. This happened to all of us very, very quickly and very unexpectedly. So it was like, you know, you can't, as a leader, you just don't have time to sit and reflect, and you have to be on your toes. Otherwise, it will affect a team that is working with you, and obviously your delivery to the business. So that is something that has something that I've learned about myself, and I've worked on myself to make sure that I'm up to the situation and can move forward to it. One other thing that I would say is to be transparent about my feelings. So we are all, or most of us are nurtured and grow up to always brainwash ourselves for the fact that we are strong, and especially as a woman, if I may say, as a woman leader, you know, you're always expected, you know, to show that kind of toughness, because you're always looked at in a different lens and a different zoom, and you always have to put that additional effort to show that, you know, I am a female, yes, but I can be as strong. So with looking at that, there were times where I was, you know, I felt that, you know what the heck, I can put my guards down, and I can feel unwell, and it is fine if I tell not everyone, obviously you have to be, to make the right choice, but I can communicate the fact that, you know, this is a time where I am not feeling well, and I need to take that step away just to rebalance myself and then go back in. So these would be the two main things that I would like to share, for the benefit of the time.
Thank you very much. Hamad?
Right. As Soughit said, this is a tough question, and I'll probably be reflecting on it for the rest of my life, and not just on this call. The things I've learned from the current situation. I've learned that I'm married. I've learned that I have 4 kids. I've learned that I live under the same roof with them.
You mean you didn't know that before?
I knew that before, but I wasn't as aware as I am right now. That's the reaction I was looking for. Right. Seriously, my patience and endurance was tested like no tomorrow during this time, and there's a lot of learnings there. Trying to practice and be empathetic to those or towards those who've been affected in whatever way was a challenge, frankly speaking. Empathy is not as simple as it sounds. Another learning probably during from this time would be the importance of understanding others. That's very important. Understanding self. So I tried also to explore and go deep and learn more about myself now, and try to tweak and tune some of the things that need tweaking and tuning. I also learned that I have to take care of myself first before I start taking care of my people or the organization or even the community. More of an inside-out approach. To start with self, take care of yourself now at this time. I am, some of you know this, but not all. I am type 1 diabetic, so I inject myself with insulin 4 times a day. If I am not well, if I am not healthy, I would not be able to take care of my kids. I would not be able to take care of my household, my family, my business, and my community, and the outer community, and going broader and broader, an inside-out approach. So take care of yourself first, take care of your people second, family and people, and then go wider if you can. I like to apply, or one thing I learned is the 3 R's, as I call them. Reflect, as you stated, the importance of doing that continuously. So reflect, rethink, and then redesign everything. Reflect, rethink, and redesign everything. So I've reflected on who I am. I've tried to redesign my character, my attitude, my values maybe, and rethink that. Reflect, rethink, and redesign in your organizations, all your practices, your strategy, your mission, and so on and so forth. So reflect, rethink, and redesign was probably among the biggest learnings for me during this time.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I have a suspicion that the extroverts are going crazy and the introverts are actually doing quite well. You go back to the Myers-Briggs kind of stuff. Rasha.
Okay, I totally agree with you that extroverts are going crazy. This is what was happening to me the first 2 weeks, I guess. Jim, I didn't go back home after the reunion of Mela. I stayed in Amman for 65 days at my sister's. So actually, this experience was pretty much awesome for me because it gave me the time to rethink, as just Hamad said, reflect, redesign, and what's the third R?
Rethink.
Rethink. Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
This was I think it's like a golden time for me to reflect and redesign and rethink about everything that I've done for the past 3 years, I guess. I started to at the first 2 weeks it was a little bit tough because I'm a people person. I want to go out, I want to see my friends, I want to talk. But then I learned about myself that I can discipline myself and adapt to the current situation, this is somehow, it was challenging at the beginning, But then I tried to make a routine for myself, like a daily routine, to learn about myself, to exercise, to eat healthy, and what we can learn actually from what is happening to us. What about our lifestyle? We are rushing from one thing to the other. Life is running. The pace is very fast. It was a perfect time to rethink all of this. This is on the personal level. On the work level, I had to, because I was working remotely with my team now, and I had to encourage everyone and work up until the emergency time that we are going through, because you know that we're working in a hospital now. Other than that, I think I've learned a lot about myself. There was a lot of personal issues that is going through my mind that I needed to heal from. I started to work about this as well. I've talked to many of my Mela friends who are very close. We spent so much time in the reunion with Mela. I don't think how I imagine our lives would be during COVID-19 without Mela, because we've done a lot of useful things and we've started to reflect with each other. This is it, I guess.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your candor. Naya?
Hi, Jim. So this question is a very deep question.
I want to get a very deep answer.
So speaking of the extroverts and being a complete extrovert person, I always charge myself and interact outwards. So I always look like for going out, spending time with friends, doing activities, outdoor travel, and so on and so forth. But since the lockdown, something different happened. I had to look in the inside and find peace and find something. This took me to a journey that from always thinking what I'm gonna do the next day or doing a plan is just like a steady river to become more focused and more like reaching like a zen level that I wouldn't have reached in the normal day-to-day fast-paced activities. Also, like if I would say in a poetic way, like I love to draw, I love art, and this COVID like added a new color to my life that didn't exist before, which is basically the steadiness in the activities that are there. Also, this is the first aspect as a person. Another thing is that being an extrovert and a people person and interacting a lot, what happened is that all the activities that we have and all the connections we have, and quoting Rasha, feeling how we would have passed this without Mela and without the chapter, I feel like all the time and all the connections have invested very well, and now it's like paying back in terms of really finding someone there, really having the call, really having that. And final thing is that I discovered to myself that during crisis, I tend to go on the more of emotion and activation and thinking like, what shall we do now, rather than getting frozen and still. And I'm surprised with all the activities that the members are doing and the friends and the family are doing, and the initiatives that have occurred, and how we need to have like a crisis response quickly. We need to have someone to help. And this made me like, if there is these type of personalities analysis that's called the Enneagram, and just like, it's like more like, I feel like I'm the helper now, like you need to help the people. And this is something that I didn't know that exists that deep core in my character before.
Okay, great. Now, what I'd like to do now is I want to ask you both, all of you, two questions, and I want to like a one bullet point answer. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll just go around the group, and then we'll open it up for questions that people may have with you. So we'll start with you. So the first question is, what has surprised you the most?
What has surprised me the most during this situation, COVID situation?
Yeah.
just me able to stay all this time at home under lockdown. This didn't happen before for me. Like, no, I would not accept that. I would not be steady. So this is the surprise I have with myself now.
And what's the biggest thing you've learned about other people?
There is always something inside of the people that would not appear except during crisis. And it's a value that's built through like the pain they passed through the past. So the quality comes from not an easy road then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rasha? First question, what surprised you the most?
How people can adapt very fast. This is what surprised me about myself, to the limit that I almost forgot how we can get back to our lives before Corona or the COVID-19.
Yeah, probably nobody will return to their life the way it was after this.
I believe in this.
Yeah. And the biggest lesson you've learned about other people, watching them deal with this?
Okay, there are people that will take the advantage of what is going on as a current situation. Some people will give back to their community and stand with other people and give, because I don't know how to say this, but I really think some people are that they have something very good inside of them that they want to give it back to the other people, and some people will take advantage of what's going on to their own interest. This is very surprising to me because the current situation is happening all around the world, and still there are people that their bad influence is taking over their good side. Although what is happening is a big lesson for all people, that everyone is same and everyone in the boat on land.
Yeah, and in a time of crisis, you find out really fast who the givers and the takers are.
Exactly.
Yeah, and as a leader, one of the things that leaders always underestimate in times like this is crisis is always about the emotional reaction. A lot of leaders try to make it a process reaction. But if you don't deal with people's emotions first, then you'll lose them. Hamad, biggest surprise, and the biggest thing has surprised you, and biggest lesson you've learned about other people.
Right. Before I answer both of those questions, I would just like to build on what you said. A wise man once said, it's time to lead emotionally. That wise man is you. Right. Now, your first question. The biggest thing that surprised me, I'm not going to stick to one answer or one bullet point. I'm going to say two. I learned that, I was shocked to learn that I'm more productive at home than I was with the normal work arrangement and working from the office. I was also surprised and shocked with how little I know of the competencies and capabilities of my people, and the fact that I'm not leveraging that enough.
Okay, Soughit?
Yes, so what shocked me about myself, and that didn't happen from day one, obviously, that this is, these are the stages, this came after the stages that we all passed by during COVID and then the lockdown and staying home and working from home, is the realization that I really don't mind, after all these years of being a professional and, someone who is always eager, career driven, always motivated to work and succeed and prove something to myself. Suddenly I'm at a point now, which is a bit of a scary moment, where I feel, you know what, I have a family. To Hamad's point, I do have a family, and I am enjoying my time with my family. And you know what, it's fine if I don't have these, if I stop it is fine if I don't continue setting these high targets for myself and work on achieving them. It is fine to just, spend more time with the family and lead a less exhausting life, if I may say.
Or maybe a more balanced life.
Absolutely. On people, the thing that really, I wouldn't say shocked me, but touched me is more of a word of it. That is the fact that, and me included, is the fact that we lead our lives trying to keep ourselves busy, and that is draining. And what I was pleased to see is that, and if you follow social media and you have friends on social media, you will see that this space that COVID has left us with has really gave us some time to look at our genuine interests, the things that we are really interested in, that the things that we never had time to practice and to discover ourselves. And just before the call, Jim, you were just showing us the drawings that Ian, your grandson, is doing that you never knew he was capable of. So that discovering that this kind of space has shown surfaced so much talent in people, being cooking, be it drawing, be it the different things that we see our friends and colleagues do on social media. So that is also one of the things that I was kind of a positive reflection for me on the people around me.
Okay. And Nabil, biggest surprise and biggest thing you've learned about other people?
I think biggest surprise was, I didn't know people valued toilet paper so much. But no. In all honesty, I think the biggest surprise was that we saw the reality of humanity in its purest form, right? A lot of people chose to be selfish, and a lot of people really pulled together. I think the majority of people pulled together, and I think in my idealistic head, I thought it would be this whole kumbaya kind of situation, but it was a bit more realistic in the sense that you see a bit of negative and you see a bit of positive. I think that also goes into the second question, I guess, as well. But even though you did see a lot of people losing their patience in these situations, I personally was really humbled by the amount of patience people actually had to sit down and just share what we're all going through. I don't think humanity has kind of ever been in the same boat on this scale. We literally are all in the same boat, more or less facing the exact same situation. So I guess the point is you just need to kind of surround yourself by the people who get it and are willing to just stick with you through it. So we're nothing if it's not for the people that are around us, right, to carry us through.
Okay, great. Rania, if there are some questions, perhaps you can highlight ones that are common and in the group and who it's addressed to, and the group can answer them.
Okay, we've got two questions addressed to all of the chapter presidents. The first one from Robato, she asks, what have you learned about the power of Mela that you were not really aware of before?
Okay, so Nabil, you want to start with that one?
Yep, sure. Sorry, I missed that. Could you just run me through that again?
Yeah, what have you learned about the power of Mela that you didn't know before, or the power of the global network, either one?
It's amazing. I don't know if it sounds...
That you didn't know before.
I mean, that I didn't know before. I think we're really pulling the extra mile. I think people are really pulling out all the stops. I didn't think people would pull out all the stops in this situation. We're very human, like I said. And sometimes, chaos comes about and everyone just scrambles and they just drop everything, right? But no, it's as you were, and even more so. Like there's initiatives that are being put together, thanks to Rania, thanks to Yusuf, thanks to you, thanks to everyone actually who's being involved in this. And it's like no, we're going to get through this, and we're going to actually find a way to put an impact to kind of make sure we get through this by having a positive impact on it.
Okay. Soughit?
Yeah. So I've learned that, and this is this is a confirmation of what Mela is, how supportive is the network. Not just Mela, actually, now that we have Sila, Ciela, and SIBF, and everyone, given that now we are in that holistic situation, it was amazing to see how supportive people were of each other. The flow of communication, it could be as simple as sharing articles and first-hand knowledge that would be beneficial for everyone to read about how to deal with the COVID, to helping other businesses, because I through the be it through the role that I have, or be it through just being a Mela member, the types of support that people have done for each other, from supporting people who are in less private businesses, small entrepreneurs, that kind of effort that was put. And if I speak about the management of Mela, and hats off and big recognition to everyone who is leading that, and I don't think it is one person is isolation or one instance. I think it's a group of things. It's the history of Mela that has built the platform for what we are today, but how reactive Mela was in terms of setting platforms where people can contribute. And I'm speaking about the community efforts that were done, different chapter members, and as a chapter management, that was well coordinated. The board, how it reacted to all of this, the committees that worked together to work at different fronts, be it to help the small businesses or to make impact in the communities that they were that we are all part of.
Okay. Rasha?
Jim, as I told you, I think that Mela has played a very impactful role in my life within these 2 months. The type of communication, the support, the energy that we take from each other, from either by talking on different platforms, or by calls, or by sharing articles or sharing thoughts, it has added a lot of a positive energy to me, because at sometimes, when you have these days, like, what the heck is going on, and then when you talk to someone in Mela or Sida or the sister networks, and then you get this energy, and we're going through this, we're surviving this, and the chance to reflect on what's going on with our friends and family across the networks. I think it is one of the most powerful connections any humans can have in his life.
Okay. Ronnie, I think I'll ask you to ask the second question, because I'm conscious of the time, and we'll let Hamad start with that answer.
Okay.
I wanted to attempt at answering the first question very, very quickly, if I may. Do we have 30 seconds?
Yeah, go ahead.
We're benefiting. I'm going to try highlight and talk about only what I've realized new in regard to the power of Mela. We all know the power of Mela, but then there's the power of Mela today, and there's the potential to the power of Mela, and these are two very different things. 1, 2, I don't think Mela, every member in Mela and the global network is aware of the power of Mela today and its potential.
Okay.
Thank you, Hamad.
Rania?
So Mohammed Timami asks, what was the one thing that made you shed a tear since the beginning of the crisis?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And that's to everyone.
I wish I'd asked that question.
I'll jump in. I think my emotional interactions with my family members, those small incidents here and there, sometimes should have brought a tear or a teardrop from that.
Okay. Rasha?
Can you repeat the question, Jim?
What was one thing that's happened to you that's caused you to shed a tear during this time?
My sisters are living abroad, and we don't know when the whole family will gather again.
Okay. And Nahla?
I had to tell my mom goodbye to travel to Australia before shutting all the airports down. So traveled now. She's in a country and I'm in a country. So it was a very hard moment.
Soughit?
So on a personal level, I was missing my mother. I lost my mom nearly a year now. And it so happened that most of my friends were, spending some time with their families regardless of the lockdown. So it was a moment that, they were moments actually that were, drove tears in my eyes. But if I look at it from a general situation, not just a personal experience, I think, and I will never forget the feeling when, all the efforts that all the healthcare system has been doing in recognition of that, the country decided, to stand, asked everyone to stand on the balconies and applaud. And you cannot believe it, Jim. Everyone entirely, the whole neighborhood in where I live, at 8 o'clock in the evening, we're on the balconies, and you could only hear people clapping. And I still have, I'm getting goosebumps, to be honest. And I couldn't stop crying, because really it is the effort of these people that is keeping many of us alive and with our families. So that is another moment that was really touching.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Nabil?
I would say that it really killed me that I could not go and see my family. They're literally 5 minutes down the road away from me. And I think just in their best interests, I decided to kind of stay safe and stay quarantined. The thing is that just as I was about to see them, there was a setback, and it was prolonged slightly. So that just kind of, you got to make some tough decisions sometimes. So just because of that, you got to be firm and you look at the bigger picture and say it's for their own good and their own safety. So yeah.
All right, great. Well, what I'm going to do now very quickly is I want to show a couple slides on things that I think are important for people to do to have mental toughness. And then I'll be glad to open it up for questions. I think we're supposed to end on the hour, so we'll try to meet that. I'll go through this fairly quickly. So let me set this up where I can share with this, because I've got it written where people can look at it in addition to hear me talk, because I think it's important in cross-cultural environments for people to be able to read what you're saying as well. So let me see if I can't do this. Can everybody see this or no? Hello?
No, not yet.
Not yet, Jim.
And
No.
Okay, just a minute. Can you see it now?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
All right, I'll put that up there. Okay. So, staying mentally tough. These are things that I've learned and others have learned that are really important to focus on. And obviously, the first thing is to remember that you always have a choice in whatever you do. And it's really important that you understand how your emotions influence your judgment. Influence your judgment about a situation, influence your judgment about another individual or group of individuals that you're relating to. We tend to undervalue that part of it. We tend to say, okay, here's how I'm going to respond, but we don't really look at how what happened to us over the course of our lives is affecting the decisions we're actually making. And during a time like this, where you have to lead emotionally, you've got to absolutely understand who you've become has affected how you respond. The main thing here is to remember you choose how you respond. There is no set script. Obviously, you've got to focus on adapting to change rather than resisting it, which means, and I've heard several of you say that you may have to find new routines, and particularly in this kind of environment, it's the routines that keep you focused. And realize that while change may be uncomfortable, it's always tolerable. View hardship as an opportunity for growth. One of the things that I do in situations of hardship is I'm always asking the first question I ask myself when I have a hardship is, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? It's a question of self, but it's also this question actually. And I'm asking, okay, from a spiritual point of view, what are you trying to teach me here? What am I supposed to learn? So that the next time I'm in a different situation dealing with some hardship, I can go through it. I find when you ask that question, you don't tend to be affected emotionally as much by the hardship you're going through. You see it more as a learning lesson. So you want to focus on the things that you can control and don't focus on the things that you can't. So you want to focus all your energy on the things that you know you can control. Control doesn't necessarily mean that you can control it purely yourself. It means that you can control the situation. You know, as a leader, our job is not to cover all the bases. Our job is to make sure all the bases are covered, and that always takes other people. You've absolutely got to evaluate your priorities. You can't do everything in this situation. So you've really got to focus on what's really important. Now, as we've heard everybody in this discussion, everybody's been taking time to really reflect at what's important. What's a priority in their life. Things that maybe they didn't do before that they wish they had with their families or with their work. So I put this in here because I find people don't tend to do this. You know, everybody has internal strength. You start getting into questions like, I can't handle this or I can't get through this, you're never going to make it. Just realize that the things that come your way are supposed to come your way. I find it very almost destiny-like that all these networks got put in place before all this happened. I find it destiny-like that the global app was launched the summer before all this. It's pretty incredible to me, and I take a lot of comfort in these kinds of things. So it's recognizing that destiny is what it is. We don't always appreciate it and understand what it means for us. But I also believe that you never get thrown things in life that you can't handle. And the day you start thinking you can't is the day that you're going down a bad path. Obviously, the longer that you wait to make decisions in situations like this, the worse it's going to get. So you want to take decisive action quickly, but conscientiously, without leaving off aspects of this. And you always want to be looking for what's the answer, what's the solution. And you may not have the answer, but there are lots of people in these networks that have answers. So the great thing is for leverage points all over the world that most people going through this experience, by the way, do not. Most people going through this experience don't have a network of intensely connected people who've all gone through the same kind of masterclass experience, which means they all understand something that's important. And they've all shared common experiences, and that allows somebody in the Sela network or the Sela network or the SIBF network to instantly communicate with people in the Mela network and vice versa. because that base is the same and there's a common understanding. And finally, you know, be thankful for the things that you have. And while you acknowledge the pain, and all of you've done this, while you acknowledge the pain, you've got to also realize that there's a lot to be thankful for. You know, you can look at this situation and say, this is terrible, or you can look at this situation and say, this has given me a chance to rethink what's important in my life. This has given me a chance to really appreciate that I've had all these wonderful people in my life that have helped me through this and are there for me. You know, these are the things that matter. That and you know, you happen to be healthy, and you can be you can have a lot of gratitude for that as well, and not take these things for granted. There's always gratitude, even in the worst situations that you can find, but you've got to practice it. A couple of questions to ask yourself about knowing who you are and who you are not. I emphasize the second part of that, who you are and who you are not. A couple of questions to ask yourself, and we'll make sure everybody gets these slides. What makes you happy? What makes you unhappy? What do you value in life? What holds you back in life? What brings out the best in you? What do you struggle with? What gets you stuck? And what motivates you? And if you go through these questions and answer these questions, you're going to know a tremendous amount about yourself. And the great thing is we all have now time to reflect on it. So let me get off this slide, these slides, and kind of open it up for questions generally. And let me see, we can take all of this, I guess.
Jim, our time is up, but I would like to take the first two questions that we got if everyone could stay on for a few more minutes.
If everybody'd like to say, is the screen off or not?
Still, it's still on.
Okay, I don't know how to get this off. Oh, I see what I have to do. There we go. Okay.
So the first question's from Muntasir Abdul Latif from Palestine. He's asking you, is this crisis a message to humanity? Don't take anything for granted and always plan as if there is no tomorrow.
Well, I don't know the answer to whether that, the fact that it's a message implies that somebody's giving that message. That's above my pay grade. You know? But do I believe that that is something we can get out of it? And it's certainly something I get out of it. You know, like I said before, when hardship happens, I'm always asking myself, what should I learn about this? And I think, you know, I was raised this way, to look at people as people. Like I don't see ethnicity, I don't see race, I don't see gender. This is the way I was raised. I look at people as people, and the rest is baggage. So what this has done for me is really make me appreciate that in everyone else to a more in-depth level, the essence of our humanity. So it's certainly an opportunity for all of us to do that.
Thank you. And we can conclude with Aisha's question. She asks, do you have any thoughts on the future of our annual academies and masterclasses? What will the network look like if we can't come together in person?
Well, boy, that would take another hour, but the short answers are there will be a time when we come together. So I'm not worried about that. We'll get past this. This isn't permanent. This is something that we're going to solve, and there's a lot of smart people in the world solving it. I said to a group yesterday that, you know, one of the interesting things to me about pharmaceutical companies now is they used to compete like crazy and figure out who was going to come out with this thing the first. Now what they're doing is they're sharing all their information with each other and let the one who wins win because it's the best for humanity. You know, that's a different way of operating. So we'll get past this. We'll get beyond this. That said, there are a lot of things we're learning about how we can do things going forward without physical presence. And that saves travel, that saves on all kinds of things. And I think we ought to leverage that and take advantage of that. And just let me give you an example. Sometimes you can try to get, let's say, a particular presenter on a topic, including a national leader. And it's very hard to get their time. It's very hard to them to give you their time. It's very hard to get them to come and do something. And what I found in this environment is if you ask somebody to participate in a session on anything, and ordinarily they're unreachable, all of a sudden they are reachable. You can bring them into sessions like this. And leveraging that now is really important. And the reason it's really important is if you leverage it now, then you create a relationship with these people that when you do get back to physical contact kinds of programming, they will come. Because now they know you, you know them, you've been touched by their experience. I don't know anybody who doesn't come to one of the networks as a presenter or a speaker or an observer who doesn't walk away blown away by the quality of the people and what they see going on. I mean, these are what I hear from people all over the world is, you know, I just can't believe it. The people we have leadership interviews with at the master classes. Nancy, you need to mute. The people that we have that we bring in on leadership interviews, all of them tell me they've never had an experience like they have doing this at one of the networks. That typically they're asked things professionally, but to go deeper into who they are matters. As far as the near term, we have an opportunity to redesign our approach to everything we do. We should be doing that now. One of the things that I ask the companies that I'm advising is if you could start with a blank piece of paper today, knowing what you've learned, how would you build your organization from scratch today to deal with the environment that's going to be the new normal? What does that look like? How are you structured differently? How do you behave differently? And those are the questions that all the networks ought to be asking themselves right now, because we have the time to ask it and we have the time to design it. To get back to Hamad's thing, we have a time to what does he say, reflect on it, rethink it, and redesign it, and we ought to be doing it now.
And that's a great positive note to end on. 1,000 thanks. Thank you, Jim. Really appreciate it. This was wonderful. Thank you to all the chapter presidents, and thank you all for tuning in. Stay connected to our social channels and check your emails. We're going to be having more webinars coming up very soon. Thank you to everybody in the Thought Leadership crew.
And I have a homework assignment for everybody. Your homework assignment is that somewhere before this day ends, go to a quiet place and reflect on what you've learned about yourself, what's happened to you in this, what have you lost, what have you gained, what's the biggest lesson you've learned about yourself. Very important to reflect, because it's only in reflecting that we can be restored.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Everybody stay safe, take care, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, everybody. Love to all your families.